Everybody thinks we need motivation, right? We want to be motivated. Rah, rah, we're going to work out today. Awesome. Every single person knows at some point motivation fails us, right? I like to use analogies a lot. So motivation to me is like a matchstick. You can light a matchstick and it'll give you instantaneous fire for whatever you need, but it dies out real quick. But discipline is like that big bonfire where you put a lot of wood into it, structured it properly, built up a structure, and then you light it on fire with that motivation.
Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn, always here with you. And this week, we're really sort of jumping off of last week. So last week, we talked about the diet industry, and the industry is about to sell us every lotion, potion, quick fix, fad, all the things. And they're really not designed for our health or for the long term. And with the new year around the corner, it's almost impossible for people to not think about grand commitments, right? So last week we offered alternatives to what the diet industry is peddling, and so that we can stand strong in our knowledge, right, and not be swayed by their marketing. Today, we're going to talk more about the non-food related pieces of keeping to those commitments, right? So let me introduce our guest to you. After 15 years in the fitness industry and helping hundreds of clients create better health and longevity, he's now on a mission to change the face of health and fitness online. With an emphasis on change psychology, as a fitness and nutrition coach, he's educating people on how to create healthy habits that result in better bodies, stronger minds, and make those changes stick. You may recognize his voice from his podcast, the Special Strength Podcast. Shameless plug for an episode featuring yours truly. So please help me welcome Imtiaz Kabir.
Thank you so much for having me, Jen. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. Welcome officially to Salad with a Side of Fries.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to this. We planned this, more than half a year ago. So this has been a long time coming.
I know. It's fun to continue the conversation. So, just to fill everybody in, if you haven't listened to it, go listen to the Special Strength Fitness podcast. The episode aired in June and was called Weight Loss Masterclass. So, like I said, if you haven't checked it out, definitely do that. What's on your schedule for the holidays?
Oh, for the holidays. Well, get back to podcasting, to be honest. I took a
Yeah.
little break from it. I like to do a mini detoxes, so to say, once in a while. Good to step away from technology and focus on real life. But I'm getting back to it in a big way for 2022. So gearing up for that January session when everybody comes and fills up the gyms and everybody's got questions about their fitness with the resolutions. Well, it's time for us coaches to step up and do the right things because, like you said, there's going to be a lot of things being sold and pushed out there. They're just not helpful. So we have to be there at the front of the line and make sure we put the good information out there.
Absolutely. So, super quick before we get into your story, let's tell our members what they're getting this week. So, guys, your recipe is for crab stuffed mushrooms. Whether you're hosting people this holiday season or you need something to bring wherever you're going, or maybe you just want like a light bite or fun appetizer for New Year's, this one's for you. And it's super simple. You could actually switch it up and use lentils or chickpeas or tofu instead of crab if crab's not your thing. Literally start to finish, 25 minutes. Amazing. You're going to love it. Plus, since it's December, the last month of the quarter, it's time for your live Q&A session, which we're doing as a one-on-one because I love talking to you guys. So you get 30 minutes, just you and me, whatever you want to talk about. There are time slots in January. So you have to book it in December, but don't worry, it's not one more thing that you have to squeeze in in the next couple weeks. So if this recipe sounds appealing because it's delicious, and you think it could be awesome to end 22 or end 2021 or start 2022 with a phone call just you and me, make sure you're a member. Go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. For just $10 a month, you get weekly recipes, a monthly article or tool, extra discounts from me and our partners, plus access to live Q&A sessions. a total deal. When you take advantage of the full offering, you save far more than that $10 cost. Seriously, it's a no brainer way to show yourself that your health is a priority. Plus, by being a member, you support this podcast and this community so we can continue bringing you new episodes and experts every single week. So remember, all you have to do is head over to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries, or just click the link in the show notes. Forget remembering the URL. Once you're there, it's like 3 clicks, a little bit of typing, and you're all set. You will get this week's recipe for the crab stuffed mushrooms and access to your quarterly live session that's just you and me. All right, Imtiaz, tell us
Yes.
your story. So you were an athlete growing up, but you also worked in finance and hospitality. Like, walk us through it all.
Absolutely. So, those of you listening who are unfamiliar with my story, I talk about it ad nauseum in my podcast. So, if you feel like getting to the details, feel free to check it out. However, I'm going to give you the cliff notes. Basically, I've been an athlete all my life. I got into sports when I was probably 4 or 3, something ridiculous like that. My dad was an athlete, so I just followed suit. And I'm a teacher. I'm a natural teacher and educator. It comes very naturally to me. So, as I got further along in my athletic career and I started to compete at the higher levels, I still remember, without having any formal coaching or training, I was so driven that I would practice on my own. And at some points, I was competing with national level athletes who were on my team. So I was like, you know what? Like, I could potentially take this really far. However, life had other plans for me where, you can only go so far based on pure skill and drive. You have to get the right kind of coaching. And this is a theme we're going to come back to later on. But when my sporting career was coming to an end, somewhere around mid university, I said, you know what? I should make a transition because I love educating people and I love sports, athletics, health, and fitness. This is sort of what I naturally gravitated towards. So I
Mhm.
became a personal trainer. This was well over 15 years ago. And of course, as you do when you're first entering this industry, you follow what's being taught to you. You follow the common norms and social norms that you see other trainers do, and you think you know what you're doing. Of course, the more educated you get in this field, you realize you really don't know much, right? You've only scratched the surface. I call it the white belt mentality, and I like to have that mentality every single day because the moment you think you know it all is the moment you've been left behind by the industry. So I became a coach. I started working with people, helping them get better bodies, lose weight, get stronger, put some muscle on, whatever their goals happen to be. And as we progressed, something shifted in this industry. It was the advent of social media. Social media kicked in. First, it was MySpace, then High Five, then Facebook, then Instagram. The biggest change that came in our industry, at least in my opinion, was when YouTube and Instagram came along. Those were the two biggest shifts because what that allowed people to do was use their body as a way of selling themselves, which inherently,
1,000%.
right, which is not a wrong thing to do, right, Jen? I mean, if you work hard for it, you know what you're doing, feel free to do so. The problem is a lot of people who were very well blessed genetically and put the hard work in, and or they're on substances that help them get that shredded look that everybody's after. They started to promote themselves as coaches who know what they're doing in the health and fitness sector, and that's not right because most of the time these people don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand the basic science behind how to train somebody, how the body works. And what they end up doing is cause long-term damage. I was dealing with a lot of clients over time who would come to me and say, oh, I had a trainer, I got results within 5 days. I lost 10 pounds. Awesome. But then I gained 20 back. And I was like, well, why did you gain 20 back? If you got great results, why didn't they stick? So when I started to realize that I couldn't compete with the social media fad, and I'm not one of those guys who likes to take his shirt off at every picture. I'm not that person. Never was, never will be. So for me, it was time to make a decision. I was a new father at the time. I said, you know what? I'm putting 12, 14 hours a day into my clients, but I feel like they're not buying into it because they don't see the shirtless pictures. They don't see the supplement stack behind me on a wall. So I decided to step away from the industry at the height of my success. My company was doing super, super well. I was almost going to go full time into it from my, hospitality career and finance career. And I said, no, I got to drop it all. So I completely erased my entire online existence in health and fitness. I got rid of it and I walked away for it for about 2.5, 3 years.
Wow.
Coincidentally, 2 years into that kind of hiatus, both for my mental health and also for my growth, because I realized I wanted to become a better coach and not just compete based on how I look, but what I could do for people.
Mhm.
I realized that a lot of people that I knew who were joining the industry now, and even some former clients who joined the industry, they were going down that same rabbit hole of, okay, I'm going to take my clothes off and tell you what I bought for groceries today. That's me, health and fitness coach 2020, 2021. And I was like, okay, I can't sit by. Like I've been given this knowledge, and I think, like Spider-Man's uncle told him, with great power comes great responsibility. I believe that if you've got good information, good knowledge, you should share it. It's a responsibility to share it because you never know who you're impacting. As coaches, I'm sure, Jen, you've experienced this too. You just never know what something you help someone with does for them, where it takes
Right.
them. So I thought to myself, why would I waste the years and years and years I've studied in university? I formerly studied anatomy, physiology, nutrition in university. I've got a degree on these things. I've done personal training. I've done extra coaching outside of the minimum requirements. Why would I hold back? And the more I saw these social media influencers come on the scene, the more I got angry. I said, this is not right. People are going to believe this, and I see them believing it. And what ends up happening is the long-term damage. They don't realize the supplements they're taking. They don't realize the kinds of training and nutrition diets they're going on are so harmful for you that not only do you rebound harder than where you were, it leaves you sometimes with medical conditions that you have to deal with. So I said, okay, I'm coming back, but this time I'm going to do things on my terms. So that's my story up until now, a little bit of a summary there. Hope that kind of catches everybody up.
Yeah. And so part of what you do and doing it on your terms is also incorporating a lot of the mindset stuff. And you you have a military background.
I do, yes. I serve in the Canadian Forces.
Yeah. So I'm so curious, like, what did you learn from the military that we'd all benefit from knowing?
So that's, you hit it right on the nail there. One of the big changes I made coming back was I need to approach myself and my clients from a psychological perspective, because unless I understand how the human mind works, you can give them all the plans you want for training, for diet, it just won't stick. And we see that all the time, especially coming into January now. The New Year's resolutions kick in, people stay with it for a week or two, and then they fall off. Well, why is that? The information is not novel. We're not creating new information. It's been there since the time of the ancient Romans and Greeks. We're just repackaging it in a different look. But why can't people stick to it? And why are successful people who are successful in this endeavor, why are they able to stick to it? What's different about them? So the military, what it taught me a lot. It honestly, I knew I always wanted to do that. It taught me a lot. One of the most important things it taught me was there's no such thing as a limit. It's only what you tell yourself. The example that I think of is if you have an ant on a table and you take a marker and you draw a circle around it, it's going to stay in that circle. It's just a line on a piece of paper or on the desk, but it's not going to go past it. If you tie a horse to a plastic chair, it's going to stay stuck there, even though it can easily just walk off with it. It's all mental, really. If you can overcome that mental struggle you're having and understand why you're struggling, then all the things you're doing are going to give you so much better result.
I love it. And I'm sitting here, that it I wanna say it the way you said it, and it's not gonna come out correctly, right? But, like, there is no limit,
Yeah,
right?
there,
It's
there
all
is.
always yeah.
Here's the thing that what saddens me the most. I still remember when I was working in hospitality. I was working as a manager at a major hotel in Toronto, and we get the bodybuilding show every year in Toronto, right? So they used to use our hotels for their stay while they were competing, and we'd get all the towels with the spray on tans and all of that. I remember talking to one of these ladies who was competing in the bikini physique competition, and I asked her, like, listen, I'm in the industry, I understand what the training is and nutrition is, but why do you do it? And the thing she told me, and I'm not going to disclose it in case somebody knows her story, because I'm sure she's fairly popular on social media, but the thing she told me, it was like I had a realization talking to her at the desk, saying, wow, she's telling me things that indicate she has some things she hasn't dealt with in her life, but she's using bodybuilding as an outlet for it, as a way to kind of control herself, or as a way to punish herself
Mhm.
in different times. And I realized, wow, like you never realize why people are doing certain things, and they themselves don't realize it until they say it out loud or they deal with a coach. And it made me realize at the time that it's so important that we make our clients and the people we're putting information out to understand, why is it we're asking you to do this particular diet, or eat this fruit versus that bag of chips? Why is it? The why matters so much, because a lot of people come to this from a place of hurt, from a place of feeling unaccepted, from a place of feeling not good enough. And sure, they can be positive drivers for positive behavior change, But most of the times it's not. People are chasing something that they're ill prepared to chase, and they don't have the right guidance. They think if they work out like Chris Hemsworth, they're going to look like Chris Hemsworth. No, you're not. That guy has a full team, 24-hour cycle of how he does things. So these things really emphasize to me how important it is to make sure people get the mindset right.
So let's talk about it because I think the mindset piece, as you and I were talking before, it's sort of we get all this information coming at us. And what do we do with it all, right? How do we combine it to make it work? And what I'm hearing from you is how we combine it to make it work is adding the mindset piece of it, right? So how do we do that? Where do we start?
Absolutely. So, we know that anybody can design a program and put it online. If you go to Google today, you can find a strength training program, a nutrition program, and they'll all work. To be honest, if done correctly, they'll all work. None is necessarily better than the other unless you have a specific target or a medical condition. The mindset piece, so that's very unique. So here's where I tell my clients to start. First of all, you have to know where you are. You have to take ownership of that. And this is not your typical, log what you're eating every day for 3 days, 7 days, what have you. Yes, that's part of the physical act of knowing where you are. But why do we want to know where we are? Because once you know where you are, you can come to peace with that. Hey, I am 100 pounds over what I want to be, right? Okay, how will you know that? Well, track your weight, track your eating. Then you can say physically, look at my notebook. Oh, there it is. I'm overweight because every day I'm having 10 bags of chips, right? You have to take ownership of where you are. Most people, and they'll make this mistake come January this year again. Most people do. They'll say, okay, that's it. Here's my resolution. I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Awesome. Hit the gym full time. Well, you never recognize where you are. What's your starting point? What's your baseline? Right? Coaches do this very well. Good coaches in the nutrition field, when we work with clients, we make sure we understand their baseline, understand how their body's functioning right now and why they are where they are. Because without it, you're not building anything. It's like a foundation for a building. You have to have a solid foundation. Once you have that, then the key is start with one thing. Most people go all out for
Hmm.
everything. They'll do the cardio, they'll do the strength, they'll do the nutrition, they'll do the life changes, they'll do everything at the same time. Nobody has that kind of willpower, right? Even the best of the best of the best breaks, right? And when they break, because they're not used to having those systems and tools in place, the systems of failure, as I call them, when you don't have that in place, you're going to fail hard and fall off the wagon and stay off the wagon, which is what we see in February, right? After January, everybody falls off and, oh, back to square one or even worse. So you have to start with one thing. Maybe if you haven't strength trained before, start with that. Or if you haven't done cardio before, start with that. Pick one thing and do that for at least a month. Dedicate time to it. Once you can solidify that habit, you've built that habit and it's no longer a chore, it's just something you do every day or every other day, then add the next piece because then you're not overtaxing yourself. This is one of the most critical points where people lose track and they fall off the wagon.
Yeah, talk to us about, what I'm hearing is it's the discipline to keep doing sort of the small things every day, right? So talk to us about discipline versus motivation.
Absolutely. So this is one of my favorite pieces. When I work with clients and I'm doing the education part of it with them, I love teaching this part because it's something they don't think about. Everybody thinks we need motivation, right? We want to be motivated. Rah, rah, we're going to work out today. Awesome. Every single person knows at some point motivation fails us, right? I like to use analogies a lot. So motivation to me is like a matchstick. You can light a matchstick and it'll give you instantaneous fire for whatever you need, but it dies out real quick. But discipline is like that big bonfire where you put a lot of wood into it, structured it properly, built up a structure, and then you light it on fire with that motivation. So motivation is awesome, but most people think that's the fuel that'll run them. It's not. It's just ignition. When you start the car, that's your motivation. You actually have to now drive, do the driving, and get to your destination. So discipline means having systems in place. This is another thing the military taught me is first, there's no limits. Second, how do you cultivate and curate discipline? Well, you have to have a system in place for the things you want to do and a system in place for when you don't do them and you start failing at them. Because unless you prepare to fail, well, you're going to fail. Everybody does.
Yeah, it's amazing because I think so many of us, right, when we think of systems, and I love this idea of thinking of it as a system, we're all familiar, I think, to some degree in this conversation, right? We're familiar with the systems to make sure our exercise happen or the systems for, meal prep, right? Which is not my favorite thing, but it's a
Right.
system, right? But
Yeah.
there are systems out there for all these things, but I think something often overlooked, which you just said, is a system for failure.
Yep.
So I want to dig into that more after a quick message from our partner for this episode, Lumiere de Vie Skincare. Lumiere de Vie Skincare was founded by Amber Ridinger McLaughlin in response to her own experience of mere marginal results from countless costly creams. She realized the revitalization of her youthful skin could only occur if she developed products herself. Working closely with beauty scientists and exploring the most advanced ingredients derived from the earth and sea, Amber created Lumiere de Vie, the next generation of skincare. The extensive line of luxury skincare products is designed to address all skin types and concerns with the highest quality natural ingredients and powerful formulas that help heal, soothe, moisturize, and protect. Lumiere de Vie acts as first aid for your skin. The result? Rejuvenated, luminous, beautiful looking skin. So, in honor of a male guest today, let's focus on the Lumiere de Vie men's line called Lumiere de Vie Ohms. And it's holiday gift giving season. So, my favorite gifts from Lumiere de Vie Ohms. The first is the skincare value kit. You get a cleanser, toner pads, and the hydrating aloe cream for a whopping $75.50. By the way, the toner pads themselves are awesome. You could buy them individually because they are also a great gift for all my female listeners out there. All the ladies, you know those days when you just don't feel like washing your face? You can use the toner pads. They are amazing. Uh, if you want more of like a stocking stuffer kind of gift, you could do the men's Tiger's Eye roller or the ice roller. Those are each 17.50. Those would also be a really great like white elephant kind of gift. So, here's the great part. You get 10% off plus free shipping because you're a salad with a side of fries listener. So simply text the word skin, SKIN, to 844-947-4846. You'll receive the link and coupon code right to your phone. Again, simply text the word skin, SKIN, to 844-947-4846 to try Lumiere de Vie skincare and get 10% off and free shipping. This is a toll-free number. Standard text and data rates may apply. All right, let's go to this system for failure. Tell us what you even mean by this.
Yeah, this is like my favorite part. So systems for failure, it's just people overlook this. People don't, I don't think most people realize that it's a thing, but it is. System for failure basically refers to a system or a set of systems that you should have in place when things aren't going the way you want them to go. So let's say that you're somebody who's trying to lose 20 pounds for, whatever your goals are. You're losing weight consistently a pound a week, great, awesome. But that one week where just things don't work out for whatever reason and you're stagnant or your weight starts going back up, what do most people do? They start to freak out a little bit. And after a week or two, they're like, oh my God, my weight's, and they start to go more extreme diets and then more extreme workouts. No, 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 no. Those are not systems for failure. Systems for failure means, okay, I recognize something that I believe is a failure. Now, how do I deal with it? And I'm talking psychologically. How do I deal with it?
Mhm.
Some of the key things that I like to do is say, okay, you have to make your systems physical, both for success and failure. So I have it in front of me right now as we're sitting and talking, right in front of me at the desk where I sit and do all my work. I've got little sticky notes right in front of me with notes for myself, right? One of them
Mhm.
says, go for it, right? It's as cheesy as that is, right? As simple as that is, it works because there's days when I don't want to go for it. But then I see that and I'm like, even if I don't go for it, that just makes me feel like, don't forget, you're going to go for it. If not now, then an hour from now. If not an hour, then 24 hours from now, right? Systems for failure. One of the ones that works for me personally that I share with all my clients, I have that note right next to go for it. It says, what you do consistently is what you get good at, right?
Mm.
So when I start to quote
Say that
unquote
again.
fail,
Wait, just pause for a second. I want everybody to take that in. What you do consistently is what you get good at.
absolutely true. And
Okay.
we see this in the military all the time. There's a reason we do our drills so often because you want to be so good and so consistent with it that in the heat of battle, you're not thinking, you're reacting. It's automatic. Same thing with life. In the heat of battle of life, when you start to fail, whether it's in relationships, weight loss, what have you, you want to be practicing things consistently on a regular basis so that you're good at dealing with those situations, right? You want to be very, very good at it. So when I am having a rough day and I look at that and I say, all right, Do I want to be consistently good at browsing YouTube for hours, or would I rather be consistently good at getting some sleep in tonight? Right? Because that's what I'm going to get good at. And based on that, it's going to inform my results, right? It's going to inform my health. That's just one example. So make it physical. Make your system something physical. I use notes all the time. I've tried digital. It just doesn't have the same impact as when you write it down yourself, put it everywhere, on a mirror, on a desk, in a car, wherever you're going to see it most often. Because human beings, we don't just learn by actively learning. We learn passively as well. We learn through osmosis. So if we see this note consistently, I'm going to start believing it consistently. Hey, go for it. Whatever it is, go for it. Or just do this thing consistently because that's what's better for you. So make it physical. See, I'll give you an example of this. Some of my friends are guilty of this, and I'm not going to name them, but this is what they do. Before they go to bed, they'll open up Instagram, right? They'll browse through the little search feeds and see
I
what's
laugh
new.
because I know them. Right.
Yeah. And when they do that, I've often had this conversation saying, what are you getting out of it? I'm not saying don't do it, but on a consistent basis every night, 15, 20, 30 minutes, whatever you spend on Instagram before you go to sleep. And this is a very big problem, not just with women, but men as well. What are we doing most of the times? We're looking at other people who are putting up doctored images, completely fake images of themselves. Their highlight reel, modified highlight reel for everybody to see and think they're so good and doing so well and they're an authority figure. Well, when you expose yourself to that on a daily basis, you start to look at yourself as not good enough, no matter who you are. Yeah, I've gone through that. As mentally strong as I am, there's been times where I'm like, man, I wish, I was still that athletic as this person. Then I catch myself like, whoa, what am I talking about? That's a
Mhm.
completely different person. I don't even know if this video is true. Funny thing, I saw a video on Reddit today. It was about a very prominent female rapper. She's probably the top rapper or R&B artist in the world. Everybody knows her name. There's a video of her, a music video that she made. This song has to do with body positivity and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
But if you look at the video close enough, you can see where they've altered the video. They've contoured her waist during the video. It's like, we're being fed the lies. And like I was saying, this connects to what I was saying earlier. We learn through osmosis as well. If you start surrounding yourself with that information, you are not going to learn the proper information. Same thing goes with coaching. If you start believing all the fitness influencers in the space, God help you, you're not going to be able to distinguish the proper information. So another thing, a system for failure is have a coach. Right? I know people say, "Oh, you're just trying to sell the services." No, listen, it doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be Jen. It could be anybody. But start
Yep.
with a coach. Even if it's a bad coach, you'll learn from it. Like I said, my some of my clients were from other coaches. Their health was wrecked, and they came to me. They're like, "Yeah, I don't know what happened there." So we have to fix that. Uh, that's one of the other things is find an expert. Find somebody who at least knows more than you and give that a shot. Make it physical, find a coach. Start with those two. See, I'm going to keep it simple because I don't want people doing 10 different things. Start with those two. And until you've exhausted your options for those two, don't start a third thing. Don't say, I need to go on a keto diet, right? Or I need to do this workout because it worked for my friend. No, find a coach and make your systems physical.
So I'm gonna push you a little bit
Go for it. I love
because
it.
I think people can have a reaction to even the word failure, right? So I really teach people all the time, the only failure is quitting,
Exactly. I agree
right?
100%.
That as long as we keep going. But I also hear you talking about like identifying how we respond to failure, right? And recognizing maybe our default tendency there when something doesn't go as planned.
Right.
Right? So what do we do with that? Like how do we adjust if we're one of those people who experiences this situation that doesn't go as planned and we're tempted to say, screw it. How do you help people readjust or shift their reaction to failure?
That's a great question. So before I get into that, I just want to say I agree with you 100%, right? The only failure is when you quit, right? That's number one. Number two, since when did we become so afraid of words that we don't use them anymore? I mean, what's so scary about the word failure? If you never fail, where's your opportunity to learn? You just didn't learn anything. You applied something, it went the way you wanted to go. Great. Failure is not a bad word. Failure is not a scary word. There really is no failure until you quit. If you quit, that's it. That's the end of it. But honestly, I, I tell people all the time, if you are afraid of a word failure, you need to work on that. You need to find a way to work on that because there's something else making you afraid of that word. See, I'll tell you my little bit about this.
Mhm.
When I was growing up, I come from a East Asian family. So, it was you're going to become a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. There you go.
Yeah.
I still remember one time I brought a 98 or 99 in math in high school. And math is not my favorite subject by a mile. It's not. But my dad taught math back in the day. So it's his. So I brought a 98, 99 thinking, oh man, he's going to be ecstatic, right? I give him proudly my report card in high school. Imagine that most people, cover up their report cards. And he's like, where's the other 1%? Right?
Yeah.
Imagine how much of a quote unquote failure I felt at that time, right? Looking back at it, I realized I was resilient and I was able to get through that because of my athletics. I understood some days you win, some days you don't. You get back up, you try again, right? Later on, of course, my dad said, oh, what's all this math going to help you in life? It's not. He realized that all the algebra, it's not going to help me. But anyways, the point being, don't be afraid to fail, quote unquote, because it's an opportunity to learn. If you want to rephrase it, but don't be afraid of the word. So, back to the point you were making. Somebody who's experiencing this failure, how do they spin it so it's beneficial to them? Well, here's another trick. You only need to do 1% better every day, just 1% than yesterday. It doesn't necessarily have to be 1% everywhere, just 1% overall. So, let's say this person's goal is to lose weight. They were losing weight. Now they're going back up in weight. They don't like it. They feel like a failure. Well, look to the rest of your day. Did you do better somewhere else? Did you do at least one thing in the entire day? Or do you have the opportunity to still do one thing in the entire day where you're going to feel like, yeah, I did 1% better in this avenue of my life than yesterday? Great. Focus on the wins. Like, focus on the wins. If you don't have a resilient system yet where you can deal with these situations and come out of it unscathed, so to say, then focus on the wins. Don't focus on quote unquote the loss because you don't have the system to deal with that yet. You will believe it. You have to believe it. Right. And this is, again, I got to tie this to the coaching thing again, because people just don't have this by default. It's easy to say, yeah, deal with failure, but a lot of people deal with a lot of different things. They don't even know the tactics to use to deal with that. That's when you reach out to a coach, an accountability partner, a friend who can pick you up. Right. We all have that
Mhm.
one friend or family member we can always call in dark times. Right. You got to have one person. Got to have one person. I always say, find a coach, whatever you're trying to get better at. Find that coach, reach out to them. Hey, I feel like a failure today. I'm bloated. I'm messy. Like, things are going crazy. Personal story. I gained 20 pounds over the last 4 months because I'm studying, my butt off. I'm redoing my anatomy, physiology, all these courses again to keep relevant. Right. But
Mhm.
I've gained 20 pounds. Was that the goal? Absolutely not. I was trying to cut 20 pounds. Right. But here we are. But I realized, hey, my goal was to ace these courses because, down the line, if I want to go to med school, down the line, if I want to do something like that, right, this is going to help me. And also, I'm going into these courses again to refresh myself with the anatomy, the physiology, the biomechanics, because I want to be a better coach, refresh myself on the human body. Why not? Right. So I did more than 1% better. See, immediately I'm like, okay, 20 pounds heavy, or I just kick the ass of school and I'm rocking it,
Mhm.
compared to my earlier years. Absolutely, I'm going to focus on the positive. So focus on 1% better. I have a client who reached out to me just a few weeks ago, and she's like, you know what? Uh, I haven't seen you in a long time. How are you doing? I said, yeah, that's great. How are you doing? She's like, you know what? I still remember the 1% rule and I use it every single day. Just 1%. This is the
Mhm.
same client who came to one of our group training sessions or group training meetings online after she had a car accident the same day. You know, she had a car accident, but she realized, no, 1% better means just show up. You don't have to be there. You don't have to be talkative. Just show up. So it's one of these things where, again, keeping it simple, do 1% better. Everybody can, literally, if you don't drink water, drink a glass of water. There's your 1%. Great. By the end of the year, right? If you do 1% better every single year, how much better are you?
Mhm.
By a mile, right? It really helps to simplify things down to one or two rules and doggedly pursue them until you've got it down. We've lost generations of the past were able to do this really well. They were able to stick to one thing for a while and really, get good at it. Our generation, because of all the distractions we have available, we're not so great at it. It's not our fault necessarily, but we can do better. Do 1% better.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think the other thing when I talk about sort of the failures, the mistakes, the things that don't go as planned, it's they're there to show us something, right? So we by having that experience, we are learning how to navigate it the next time. And similar to your 1% thing, I think it's also worth saying, like, we don't have to go from one extreme to the other. So we have this, maybe it's a holiday dinner, right? And it doesn't go perfectly as planned. But this time of year, there's the next holiday dinner not too far
Absolutely.
away.
Yep.
And so maybe at that one, you still aren't, in air quotes, perfect, right?
Yep.
But it was 1% better than the previous one, and that's the progress. And I think it's so easy, going back to what you were saying about, social media and all these other things. I think it's so easy to default to comparing to what we're seeing and saying, "Oh, I'm not 100% instantly a different person."
Right. And overwhelmingly, and I've done this research myself, overwhelmingly, when you talk to people who are shredded or have that image that you're looking to get for yourself, physique wise, they're not any happier. In fact, most of them are way worse off because what normal everyday people don't realize is okay, so I'm going to put some insider secrets of the industry out there, but it needs to be said. To look like the top 1 to 5% of people out there, influencers, athletes, what have you, I can guarantee you you're going to be taking some air quotes supplements that are not good for you. Not good for you. You see an epidemic of bodybuilders dying at 35 years old or physique athletes dying at 35 years old. Why? Because they're taking these substances no matter how much they tell you they're not. You can go to YouTube, there's tons of people exposing these people. And it's important because pe- average people don't realize you can't get to 5% body fat just by dieting and training. Most of us can't. It takes an immense amount of work to even get close to it. And then you need the pharmacological aids to actually get you that shredded. Number two, those doctored images, I can produce 20 of them in about 5 minutes on Photoshop. It's so easy to do. You give me a photo of you that's the most unflattering, I'll turn it into Miss Olympia. Like it's so easy to do. And everybody does it. It's so bad that you can, like I was mentioning earlier, you can actually edit videos. So you think a video can't be doctored or altered. Yes, it can be. Technology has gotten so far that you can alter pretty much anything. So don't believe in these images because it's all a lie. It's all marketing. At the end of the day, they're selling you something. Something or the other is being sold here. And when it comes to people not recognizing that, like you said, it's not about going from one extreme to the other. It's that slow progress. Unfortunately, it's not this time I'll say it's not their fault, it's the industry, because the industry's
Totally.
conditioned them to say, yeah, take this protein shake, you'll get in shape. Take this supplement or to do my diet. Like the keto diet. I love to hit on the keto diet because
Well, they'll, aside from keto, and sorry to jump in, but
no, go
it's
for it.
like, eat whole foods except for this bar that we sell.
Right. Right. The
You know,
magic
and
bar.
and they can have their place. I'm not saying, never. I'm not an extremes person, but it's funny when those two things come from the same company.
Absolutely. I always, what helped me with my Instagram thing was I always ask myself now, whenever I'm looking at an account, are they trying to sell me something? That's the first question I ask. Are they trying to sell me something or just provide information? Like if they're telling me to buy something from them, what are they selling me? Is it just this bar, or is it that my insecurities or my looks are going to change because of this bar? There's a difference, right? Walmart can sell you a T-shirt. It doesn't say, "Hey, you look fat, so buy this specific T-shirt," right? You've got to look at the intentions of of these accounts and people because at the end of the day, majority of them, especially this time of year, it's so relevant. We're having this conversation. They prey on the insecurity of people. Most people, most of our listeners, both your podcast and mine, they don't need, first of all, even to be that shredded. Honestly, you guys don't realize I have to share. Like I've gotten that shredded and I hated it. I hated my life. It was like, why am I eating like chicken and broccoli and like back in the day when I didn't know any better about
Mhm.
nutrition? It was miserable. And even to this day, the bodybuilders that I know, the physique athletes that I know, it's a miserable experience when they're on stage looking their best or doing the photo shoot. They're as close to death as you can get. It's the god honest, scientifically proven truth. They're as close to death as you can get. You can look at these people fainting on stage because they're that close to dying, because that's how extreme they have to push themselves to look a certain way. Is that really important to you in the grand scheme of things? Is that what your health is about? That's not what fitness is. I guarantee. I work with professional athletes. That's not fitness. We'll take that out of the question. But is that what your health is worth? Because once you push that hard, women, for example, they have problems with their monthly cycles, right? Very, very common,
Yep.
right? Hormonal imbalance. Men, once you push your hormones that fast, you're looking at getting, testosterone therapy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is it really worth it? Right? You got to ask the why. Why do I want to look like that? Why do I feel insecure when I see a picture like that? You got to get a few levels deeper than just, oh, they're smiling, they look successful, they have the girls and the boys or whatever, and I want to look like that because I want that life. Well, no, why do you want that life? Because I promise you, it's for the most of us, it's not worth it. If you're chasing bodybuilding dreams, this podcast and my podcast are not for you. That's a whole different
Right.
segment. But yeah, I
Well,
think it's just important to know your why.
and I think in that vein also, right, when we look at or we have that tendency to compare, it's also important to recognize your goals may not be their goals. Their goals are likely not your goals,
Exactly.
right? And refocus on what you're doing and what your objectives are and why you're doing it, as you were just saying. Because um, so often, if we were to say, okay, if that's the outcome or the photo that they're sharing, right? What could I surmise the objective was? Is that mine? And we all have our own set of circumstances and things that are going on, and no two people's situations are exactly the same. And so we're so often comparing, I talk about this all the time. We're often comparing their results to our process
Yes. They're
rather
highlighting your thought
than
process. Yep.
right, and it's an inappropriate comparison. Instead of comparing outcome to outcome, right? It's like what people often say are those quotes of like, when you look at someone's success, it's the top of the iceberg that sticks out of the water. What you're missing is everything below. And
Absolutely.
so I think what ends up happening is that we're comparing their tip of the iceberg and we're drowning in the water underneath looking at our own base of the iceberg, if you will.
And then what ends up happening is when we don't see the progress we think we should, like the speed of the progress, we get even further depressed.
Right.
Like, oh my God, I'm not moving anywhere. I'm going backwards.
Yeah. All right, so let's wrap this up. Anything we missed, a final thought or something we all want to keep in mind as we close out 2021, head into 2022.
Absolutely. So obviously 2020, 2021 has been interesting for the entire globe. It has not helped people's health and fitness, that's for sure. And I can speak for myself and several other people, and I'm sure a lot of the world, where I say we're all coming back somewhat into normal times with a lot more to work on. I know that we haven't been active as much as we could have. So here's a few things. Number one, it's super easy, and I hate to just rag on social media, but I think it's a very big problem and we need to address it. Number one, reduce the time you spend on social media. I promise you your life will be better for it. Even myself and other people I know who are in this space, who are coaches, who use social media for our work, we take time off because your mental health is severely affected by it. So please take some time off. Don't quit it, but take some time off. It'll be better for you. Number two, make your systems physical. It's not enough to just write it down somewhere and put it away in a drawer. Put it out there where you can see it. I bring that example again. What you do consistently is what you get good at. If you see those post-it notes around your house consistently, physical representation that you wrote down something, it's going to stick to you so much better. This is why when we coach clients, the ones who physically track their progress and their diets and their workouts, they tend to do better because they're taking accountability. They don't know it, but they're taking accountability. And when they don't physically do it one day or 2 days and they start missing those sessions, they start to feel it like, oh, I feel like something's missing. I'm not physically doing something. And that
Mhm.
helps course correct them. So make your goals, make your systems physical. And the last thing for me is do 1% better. You don't have to go 100% better the next day, especially with New Year's coming. The resolution's going to come. We're going to see it every single year. You just need to do 1% better. And the best advice I can give you is get with a coach. I still get with coaches. So 2022,
Absolutely.
right? One of my goals
Yep.
is to get a CPPS certification done. The CPPS certification is done by Joe DeFranco, who's out in New Jersey. He's one of the top coaches in the entire world, right? He's working with Smitty. Basically, if you know these guys, you know. But if you don't know, these guys are working with NFL athletes, pro athletes, WWE athletes. They're working with the best of the best of the best. And I've being mentored by them from afar for many years because I followed everything they do, and I know that they're legitimate coaches. And this has been a goal of mine, and I'm finally doing it. I'm getting that certification done. Why am I doing it? At this point, I know more than enough to coach a client. Why would I go ahead and pay this money and put this time in? Because if I'm telling you to get with a coach, I have to believe that myself, and I do. I strongly do. I am now using them as my coaches, learning their systems, their methodologies, so I can be even better. It does it, it never stops. You have to have a white belt mentality. And finally, if I could add this little bonus tip,
Yeah.
every single diet, every single workout is going to work if you know how to work it for you. Okay. I rag on the keto diet all the time because it's such a fad, right? But honestly, it'll work if you know what to do. Most people don't because you don't have the background, the science, and the knowledge of how the human body and diets work. So when you go into these diets in January, in December, January, February, don't think just because you're doing a certain diet or a certain workout program, it's going to work. Again, coming back to, you should get with a coach. They can guide you. They can see things that you will not, and they will help you navigate those waters so much more successfully.
Awesome. All right. It's time for our short list of rapid fire off topic questions. You ready?
Okay, hold on. Rapid fire questions. Let's go.
All right. What's the best thing you've done for your health this week? What's the naughtiest thing you've done for your health this week?
Best thing I've done is get more sleep, hands down. Naughtiest thing, probably finished a full pudding yesterday. That was pretty good though. Won't lie. I needed
Sounds
that. I
delicious.
needed that for my mental health, so that was good.
If you weren't a health and fitness coach, what would you do?
If I wasn't a health and fitness coach, and if I wasn't full time in the military, I would probably end up becoming a teacher. I love to teach. It's just in me.
I could see that. Favorite book on any topic other than your area of expertise?
Oh,
Could
Lord of
be
the Rings.
fiction.
Lord of the Rings,
Okay.
hands down. Yeah.
If you could cure one ailment, disease, or sickness, what would it be?
This may not fit the typical bill of a ailment necessarily, but I think it is. It's people's lack of belief in themselves.
Mhm.
Like honestly, the military's taught me you just have to believe, even if things seem insurmountable. Just have to believe, and you'll get there. Just don't quit.
If you were a superhero, what would be your superpower?
Connecting with people. I think, getting through to them because I've struggled with that in my earlier career, making sure they understand what I'm saying and why I'm saying it versus the, social media stuff.
Yeah.
So just getting through to them a little bit deeper, maybe some kind of mind control. I don't know.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
Oh, biggest pet peeve is when people think they know nutrition because they follow some influencer online. It's just tied to my industry. It's just no, you don't. You don't know the science of it. You don't know why they're doing it. You don't even know what they're selling to you, but they're selling it to you.
Finally, in your opinion, what's the next frontier in wellness?
So, with the aging population worldwide, generally speaking, or at least in the Western Hemisphere, I should say, we're going to see a lot more physiotherapy relevant programs coming out. A lot more coaches are going that route as it is, incorporating massage and physio into their services. I think for the older population, that's going to be the case. For the younger population that are still going to be around, I think it's really going to come down to how do you find mental health, because
Mhm.
more and more physical health is getting easier, more people have access to drugs and all these other things they can use, but they're all losing it where it counts, which is mental health, and that's causing a lot of unfortunate health concerns, as well as we're losing people way too early. We don't want to lose this many people, but we are, because mental health is being bombarded with so many things, social media, YouTube, you have it. So I think mental health is going to be the thing for young people, and for older people, it's definitely going to be physiotherapy.
Awesome. And the mental health thing is very fitting for our nutrition nugget. We'll get there in a second, but thank you one more time. Just so appreciate you being here. Tell everybody how to connect with you, where to find your podcast, all the things.
Thank you so much for having me. First of all, I appreciate the opportunity to connect with your audience. Anybody who's followed my show or will check it out, I keep my social media profile pretty low because I'm planning a full launch in 2022 with a website and everything. But if you want to connect with me, I'm on Instagram at ikabir.fitness. So ikabir.fitness. You can always just look me up on Facebook, send me a quick message. Those are probably the best ways to get to me until I launch my website in 2022 January, and it will be called Special Strength Fitness.
Excellent. All right. You have another minute to hang out for this nutrition nugget?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So this week we're talking about BDNF. And a lot of you are like, huh? Is that drugs? Right? So it's not, but it might be just as interesting. So let's review what it is, what it does, and what we can do about it. So BDNF stands for brain derived neurotrophic factor. So it's a protein that's encoded by the BDNF gene. And it's one of the neurotrophin growth factors. So, what this means is that it induces survival, development, and function of neurons, right? So, unnecessary fun fact, it was first isolated from a pig brain in 1982. Maybe you need to know that, maybe not, whatever. I thought it was interesting. So, anyway, BDNF is a naturally occurring protein in the brain that improves brain function, may lower your risk of mental disease. So, it protects and repairs brain cells, it increases the growth of new brain cells, it improves learning, memory, and mood. Many researchers actually consider it a natural antidepressant. So, while it was discovered in 1982, there's actually been quite a bit of research. So, various studies have shown possible links between BDNF and conditions such as depression, schizophrenia, obsessive compulsive disorder, Alzheimer's disease, Huntington's disease, uh, dementia, as well as anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa. And in a study with rats, increased levels of BDNF induced a change to an opiate dependent like reward state. So essentially, higher levels of BDNF mean lower risk of chronic depression, anxiety, and poor cognition. So, all the research essentially suggests that if you struggle with mental illness or poor brain function, you likely have reduced levels of BDNF. Now, to me, this begs the question, right? What can we do about it? So, first, we're going to go through a handful of things that we can do sort of lifestyle wise, right? And then we'll talk about some supplementation things or some additional support, right? So, first, we need to manage our stress, right? Stress reduces BDNF. So, it's your personal daily habits to help you manage stress can quite literally improve your cognitive health. Right. For more on this, go back to our episode, The Mess of Stress, and we can help you brainstorm through some of those tools. Now, one of those tools might be exercise, right? That can help us manage our stress. But in and of itself, exercise is potentially the fastest and most effective way to boost BDNF levels. It also improves learning and memory and mood. So there was a study in 5 weeks of mild intensity exercise. They saw significant increases in BDNF levels and reversed cognitive decline in old age rats. So there was also a study on younger men who qualified as sedentary, right? So just not much activity. And the study showed that high intensity exercise increased BDNF and improved memory. So interesting. Let's move our bodies, increase that BDNF. And then sunlight also plays a role. So one study found that BDNF increased in the summer and spring, decreased in the fall and winter. Participants with the lowest BDNF levels were more likely to be depressed. So this actually could be, like, we've heard of seasonal affect disorder. So this could be what's happening there. And then, of course, not surprising, nutrition is super important, right? So on the nutrition front, we want to think about prebiotics and resistant starches. So I talked about this in our episode, America's Fiber Problem. Essentially, though, right, these foods are the fuel, what the good bacteria in our gut eat. And that good bacteria also converts these prebiotics into butyrate. We talked about butyrate in our butter nutrition nugget, but essentially, butyrate has been shown to increase BDNF. So, not surprising, right? We talk about the challenges of the standard American diet. There are also studies that suggest that eating processed foods and sugar lead to lower levels of BDNF and impaired cognition. So, this next tool for BDNF is interesting, especially given, the quarantine life these last couple years. But we want to get social, really. So, research has shown that a stimulating social environment increases BDNF reduces depression and anxiety. There was another study that showed that women who are friendlier to strangers also have higher BDNF levels. So again, who knows if there's like, a cause and effect or a correlation, right? But interesting nonetheless. So then sleep, right? Sleep, we could go back to our episode called Sleep on It for more on this, but for this conversation, sleep deprivation reduces BDNF, brain derived neurotrophic factor, right? Insomniacs tend to have lower BDNF levels, and higher levels of BDNF are often a sign that a person is sleeping well. Now, quick note on sleep, remember, it's not just the quantity, it's also the quality of the sleep that matters. So then, foods, there are some studies that looked at pure blueberry flavonoids. So for 6 weeks, the levels that they gave people in the study were about the same amount as what you would find in blueberries. And they found significant improvements in memory by increasing BDNF levels and BDNF expression. Dark chocolate is another one. So again, I think this could be because of the antioxidants. They can trigger like neuroprotection by activating BDNF survival pathways, according to a study. So, with the dark chocolate, we want to make sure high quality organic dark chocolate with as little sugar as possible. There's also some people will say like red grapes and olive oil can help too. Um, I didn't love what I saw in terms of like the research on it, but it's certainly possible. Um, the red grapes potentially because of the resveratrol. So we'll get to that in a second. But the first one on as far as like supplements that I want to talk about is curcumin. This is like my number one. So curcumin is the most heavily researched compound found in turmeric. And many of you guys have heard about turmeric, right? The spice. Curcumin is what gives it that color. So, studies show that curcumin can increase BDNF production in the brain, leading to improved cognition and mood. It also protects the brain by activating BDNF. And if you want to geek out, right, go to PubMed. There's a 2006 study from the Department of Pharmacology at the School of Basic Medical Science from Peking University. The headline of it says, curcumin reverses the effects of chronic stress on behavior, the HPA axis, BDNF expression, and phosphorylation of Krebs, right? A lot of us have heard of the Krebs cycle. So this was actually like my first foray into learning about BDNF. And if you're looking at curcumin, you want to make sure you're getting a bioavailable curcumin. I'll give you guys a link in the show notes to the one that I've taken that's what got me into this whole can of worms, if you will. A couple other things, green tea. So again, it's the antioxidants in the green tea have been shown to increase BDNF. Omega 3s. So we talk about omega 3s a lot for our brain. And we know a lot of people are deficient, right? So omega 3s have been shown to improve mood, sleep, learning, memory, and protect against psychiatric disorders, including depression, mild cognitive impairment, dementia, and Alzheimer's. So these results are likely because they've been shown to increase BDNF levels. There were also some studies after traumatic brain injuries that omega 3s normalized BDNF levels in rats. So, just really interesting. The red grapes, resveratrol. I feel like this was a buzzword a little while ago. We should do a nutrition nugget on it. But so, resveratrol is the antioxidant found in red wine. Remember this? So, it's known to help prevent neurodegenerative diseases or the progression of such diseases, which may cause, or maybe because it has neuroprotective effects by elevating BDNF. It also actually can help improve fatigue. So that may be a thing for you right now. Magnesium is another one that has antidepressant effects by significantly increasing BDNF expression in the brain. So many people, I think a majority of people are deficient in magnesium. So this is another one that I would recommend. Maybe you've heard of NAC, right? N-acetylcysteine, and also L-theanine. So these are amino acids, and research shows that they can both increase BDNF. And then adaptogenic herbs. So we've talked about this when we talked about ashwagandha, right? Adaptogenic herbs sort of bring us back to even, right? They sort of even us out. Think about it like resilience against stress, right? So examples might be, right, we have the ashwagandha, also rhodiola for mood and energy, bacopa for memory, cognition, reducing anxiety, ginseng, we've heard of, right? That's actually been shown to prevent stress-induced decline of BDNF. Two more things. I got you guys. Okay, zinc. Zinc is an essential trace mineral that activates several hundred enzymatic reactions, including brain and nervous system function and neurotransmitters. Studies have shown that zinc has antidepressant effects because it causes a significant increase in BDNF levels and BDNF gene expression. So, the craziest part of this, an estimated 2 billion people around the world are zinc deficient, right? Multiple studies have shown um, that zinc deficiency impairs brain function in people of all ages. So, if you struggle with depression or anxiety, similar to BDNF um, levels, you might want to also look at zinc levels, right? So, zinc levels are often connected to depleting BDNF levels. And remember, zinc is also connected to that BDNF gene. Finally, DHEA. So, this is the most abundant circulating steroid hormone in the body, often referred to as the mother of all hormones because it's a precursor to many hormones in the body. So, DHEA is produced in the adrenal glands, the gonads, and the brain. DHEA is known to have neuroprotective effects and improve memory and cognition. One study showed that it increased acetylcholine and BDNF expression. So I know this was a lot, right? I'm going to put a link together. If you're interested, take a look at some of these. Of course, speak to your pharmacist, speak to your doctor. But I think it's just interesting. BDNF to me, brain derived neurotrophic factor, is not discussed enough. I think it's super relevant right now for these last 2 years. And the most exciting part about it is that we're not doomed. There's a lot that we can do to support our brain health and improve our brain function because BDNF can lower our risk of what would qualify as mental disease and also help improve memory and cognition and mood and all the things. So there you have it, guys. BDNF. How'd we do? Anything to add, my friend?
Absolutely. Any one of those things that you talked about there, I mean, that was a nugget and a half, but any one of those things you talked about in there could be the 1% that someone can pursue. Just one. You talked about
Yep.
zinc, you talked about BDNF, you talked about move your body. Anything.
Yep.
Pick one thing, pursue that thing. I personally have had great effects with SAD, with seasonal affective disorder,
Mhm.
because it used to hit me quite a bit. And I was sick for many years. But then when I started to take care of my zinc levels, my magnesium levels, and my vitamin D levels.
Mhm.
For me personally, those three things, one at a time, of course, and I figured out the right combination for me. It just changed my life. Not sick anymore. SAD doesn't get to me anymore. It's just a whole thing. So pick one. Go hard at it. 1%. That's it.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you again for being here.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. As always, everybody, I'm your host, Jenn Trepic. Connect with me on Instagram at Jenn Trepic. Actually, all social media, it's at Jenn Trepic. The website is asaladwithasideofries.com. So wherever you'd like to reach out, please do share your key takeaways, your ideas, your questions. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me. Of course, if you're not already, join our membership program by going to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries to show your support for this podcast, this community, but most of all, support your health. Plus, you'll get this week's recipe for the crab stuffed mushrooms and access to your quarterly live session, just you and me, which remember, you can do it in January as long as you book it now. So until next week, everybody, remember it's all about systems for our success and preparing for our failures or bumps in the road as we close 2021 and head into 2022. It's all systems go. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.